So, my lecture is entitled "The Hips Don't Lie," and it's about like emotional intelligence and stuff. So that's what we're going to be talking about for the next 10 minutes. So get uncomfortable or whatever is the most appropriate thing to do. Also, I feel I should explain, like from the top, why I'm standing like this. It's because I heard recently that 8 out of 10 men prefer a woman with a thigh gap. So that's what this is about. Makes walking difficult, but it's worth it for the attention. It's worth it for the attention. To be honest, like, I'm not even sure how accurate that research is. Like, that could just have been the 10 guys I asked on the way here. So who knows? Who knows? Just like a really small disclaimer, just before I start, I like have quite a bit of a cold and my throat's a bit sore. So if I have to keep taking water, that's why. Also, my day is like, I'm not sure like how well I'm going to speak, how eloquent I'm going to be, because this is one thing that happened to me today. I called my local beauty salon place and I said, no, actually what I meant to say was, "Hi, I'd like to make an appointment for a bikini wax, please." That's not what I said. What I said to another human being down the phone was, "Hi, I'd like to make an appointment for a bikini massage, please." You don't need Freud for that one, do you? Yeah, it was so embarrassing. She was like, "We don't do that." It's not a thing. Oh gosh. Anyway, so yeah, just like, disclaimer, because, who knows what is going to come out of my mouth now for the next 10 minutes. But yes, hips don't lie. So I'm going to stand here. Is that kind of better for people? Can you see it then if I stand this place? Yes? So basically, like the hula hoop, you know what hula hoops are? When I was a child, this was like my main nemesis as a child, the hula hoop. Like I couldn't use one at all. Like it was very, very bad. And it's because like my hips were like too rigid. I like couldn't move my hips at all. And it was just like, it kept mocking me like all the time. And then all the other children could, keep it going and stuff. It was very embarrassing. So that kind of traumatized me a little bit, like from when I was a child, the hula hoop. But then I learned why I couldn't do that, and it was because I was emotionally constipated. That was my diagnosis. So I was like quite emotionally repressed, like just proper Irish person. So yeah, so this is like I haven't given a shit in years, So I was emotionally constipated. So then about 5 years ago, I started doing yoga. Anyone here do yoga? Woo, yeah, I love it. Love the smug pretentiousness of it. Oh, love it. Who knew stretching would make you feel so superior? It's really good. Yeah, I do. I really like yoga a lot, actually. I feel like when I talk about yoga, I should say namaste to you all. For anyone who doesn't know, that is yoga for I'm better than you because I'm more humble than you are. So yeah, actually I was in a yoga class last week, and a new person, like a new guy, like arrived in the class. He walked in. I know he was new because he was dressed head to toe in GAA gear. Like, I'm not even lying. Like the jersey, the shorts, the socks, everything. It was like he misheard. He just heard "ga" at the end of the word. I was like, yes, I can do that. That's a sport I can do. I have the uniform. But there was one time I was in a yoga class, and a few years ago, and my yoga teacher, she said that if you're like quite rigid and inflexible and quite tense and stuff, it's because we keep our emotions in our hips. So, if you can't really like move your hips very well, it's because you've got like a lot of emotions and stuff, and you're a bit stressed and tense and everything. And it's because this thing called the Psoas Muscle. Have you heard of this before? So this is like basically like your ass, I guess. Like that's kind of. But it's like, like your lower back or whatever, and like your hips and stuff. And it's where you store like stress or trauma. And if anything like that has ever happened to you, like that's where all your emotion goes. And you need to kind of free that up. The psoas muscle is apparently called the muscle of the soul. So that's something new I learned as well. So that's kind of like our soul is, if our emotions are quite stressed and trapped and everything, we're not very flexible. We can't really move around very much. And then I was kind of thinking like, well, what's a good way to kind of like look at and represent like how people can express themselves freely? And I kind of was like, I want to get a little bit like anthropological about it, and just to take like maybe an example of like different cultures and the stereotypes that are associated with them, and then maybe see how well or not they express their emotions. And I was kind of like, what's a good way to show that you can express your emotions? And I think one of the ways is like through dance. So I have a test that we can all do. So if we just do like some free dance right now, I'm only joking. That's like, I would never. There's like no scarier words in the English language, are there, than like free dance? I was like, oh no, that is awful. Oh, it's terrifying. So don't worry, I'm not going to make anybody do that. But yeah, so I was kind of thinking like, so for example, if you think about like Latin American, kind of Spanish people, what would you kind of say about them emotionally? Like, what would you say like they're quite emotionally expressive, kind of free? Yeah, aren't they? Like, by comparison to Irish people, like, they really are. So, like, and then, like, their dance is kind of like salsa and stuff. So, like, that's, like, I mean, that's super sexy, isn't it? You know, like, and they're, like, so there's a lot of, like, hip movement. They're very, like, fluid. They can, like, move quite well. So, and, like, look, like, that's amazing. Like, that's very cool. So, like, that's, like, salsa and, like, you know, Latin American. So they're very emotionally expressive, and then they can, like, dance quite well as well then. And then, you know, when you think about Irish people... No, the hips do not move, like, at all. They're, like, really rigid and, like, just, you know, stuck. Which is, like, I think the irony is that you have to remain, like, quite erect, so it's kind of funny. Because, like, you know, how well you can dance as well is kind of a, you know, sample of, like, how well you have sex, I think, as well. So Irish people, like, these people don't have sex with them. But yeah, so like Irish people, yeah, it's quite rigid or whatever, and it's like down there. So what is emotional intelligence? So it's the ability to identify and manage your own emotions and to kind of recognize and empathize with other people and like how they're feeling. So this is one thing. Now I just want to just double check, just in case I'm forgetting stuff. Don't do that, Eve. That's littering. Oh my gosh. Switch to litter on the stage there. Now let me see. Oh my God, well done me. I remembered like all of that. That's very impressive. Gee, Mac. So yeah, so as well as doing yoga, like about starting yoga like 4 or 5 years ago, because I was just like so like, you know, if like with regards to like emotional intelligence, I was definitely like in the slow class. Like I was definitely like one of the slow pupils. Like I just didn't have any emotional intelligence at all. Like I didn't know what feelings were. I didn't know what the words were, like genuinely, like at all. I felt like quite trapped and everything, to the point where I was like, right, I just need to go to therapy. Like, fuck this is, you know, I really just need to go to therapy. So I started doing that. And actually, I started going to therapy like 3 years ago. And before I went, actually, I was warned about this thing called love transference. Have you ever heard what this is? So this is where like you fall in love with your therapist, right? Now, it didn't happen to me, but I researched it. It's very, very common. It happens all the time. So now, I'm studying to become a therapist. Yeah, gonna get myself a boyfriend. But yeah, like so when I went to therapy like for the first time, like, you know, you're not in a good place, obviously, when you go to, it's like when you start the gym, you're not in a good place physically when you go to the gym. But like, you know, the therapist, when I met her first, she was like, so how are things? And I was like, great, I'm here to brag, actually. Like, what did she expect me to say? But then she was like, cut to the chase, and she was like, so what's your problem? And I was like, Jesus, right. I'll be done in no time. She's very direct. I like this. So I was like, oh my gosh. Well, and obviously, you know, like the first time you go to a therapist, you're very stressed and you're kind of frightened and you don't really know what to say, and I was really nervous and yeah, just like really anxious and everything. And then she's like, what's your problem? I was like, oh my God, rudeness. But so then I was like, well, I think I feel quite dead inside. That's one problem, definitely. I don't think that's right. And also, like, I feel quite sad, like, a lot of the time. And I'm just not really sure, like, how to relate to people. Like, I think I have, like, mother and father issues. Like, I just, you know, there's quite a list of things. And, like, I started, like, going down through this list with her and... or at her, I should say. And then, like, I looked up, and she, like, was looking back at me with just, like, an expression you don't want to see on anyone's face ever, particularly when you're being so open and honest with them. And she was like, I think there's been a mistake. And I was like, why? And she goes, I'm a massage therapist. I was like, oh. Bikini massage? I don't know. No, but, so yeah, so, like, I genuinely, but then, you know, it was kind of like, she was, my therapist did then when I actually did go to a proper therapist, she was like, how do you feel? And I was like, yes, exactly. Like, that's how do you feel? Like, how? Like, what are the mechanics to it? Like, I don't understand how you feel. Like, I don't understand how to do that. And so I mean, like, I was starting from like having no just no emotional awareness at all. And I think like nowadays, it's super easy to learn about emotions because you have like emoticons everywhere. And like, I think, it's really easy to learn about them. Hang on, however, I really take offense to this one now. So look at this, lonely and alone. So alone and lonely are the same as stupid. That is awful. I don't know who I need to complain to, but that is bad. Like, that's not good, like, at all. Because, like, loneliness is how everyone feels, isn't it? But anyway, I take offense to that. But anyway, but then like and now like people have like the movies like Inside Out and stuff to learn about your emotions. I didn't have that as a kid, like at all. So they're all really good. Have you seen this movie? Yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it? It's really, really good. And it is important to learn about your emotional intelligence, I've learned, because your emotional intelligence affects like your mental health. And I've stuck in like a picture of Brezzy there because I actually feel really bad for Brezzy. Everyone's like giving out about him. He's like the Bono of mental health now. It's like, give him a break. Like, fucking hell. I think he's doing great work. And she's very pretty. Also, the picture of like the Scream thing was just like, it's just about anxiety. I will reference it later. So like I, as a kid, like I didn't understand like at all like how to be emotionally intelligent or anything like that. Like growing up in Ireland when I, like in the 80s or kind of early 90s, whatever, it was like there were like 4 emotions, like so happy, sad, hungry, and thirsty. Like that was it. 2 of those are just sensations, like they're just physical sensations, they're not even feelings. So like, well, actually, no, sorry, I'm like that's not true. There was also obviously, growing up in Ireland, tiredness and shame, Noira, like that's important. But I think like kind of on a like more serious note, I think we do like I'm kind of getting a bit tired of like the shame and stigma and stuff that's associated around like mental health and emotional health and everything. And I think like we really do like need to get rid of that, because like fuck it, like let's face it, like we're all human, we're all bonkers, like none of us have a clue what's going on. Sure we don't? I don't anyway, never know what's happening. Like this world really confuses me an awful lot. But I just think like we're all mental, like we're all, a bit mad. And that's fine, like that's cool. We're all just like perfectly and beautifully flawed, I think. So we just need to embrace it. But because, oh shit, oh my God, I'm going way over time. Anyway, so I'm just gonna fly through this. It was like I thought this was a self-help book for a long time, Abnormal Psychology. But then this doesn't exist either, How to Be Normal. I looked for that for a long time. Also, self-help, yeah, okay. I actually think self-help is a great thing, though. Like, you can only help yourself, really. Just spoiler alert. So you don't, like, not having emotional intelligence is not great. And you can do what I did, which I wouldn't really recommend, which is have a bit of a breakdown. So wouldn't recommend doing that. But or just Google emotional intelligence and then work on that and how to just save yourself a lot of hassle, But I actually like genuinely, I actually look on like the kind of breakdown that I had as like a really good thing. It's like one of the best things that's happened to me in my life. And I think if you ever suffer from depression or have experienced a breakdown, embrace it and just learn from it, because it's trying to, something in you is trying to tell you something, and just learn from it, because mine was like an emotional alarm clock. It just made me wake up, and I had to learn about all these things. So I just very quickly, like when I went to the doctor, just to tell him that like I was quite depressed, he was like, oh right, he really, didn't feel like he was taking me very seriously, and he was like, oh, did you break up with a boyfriend? And I was like, excuse me, my problems are bigger than that, excuse me. But I was like, no, actually, I don't have a boyfriend. And he just like looked at me as if like, oh, that's the problem. You just need to get laid. Which maybe he has a point, I don't know. But who knows? So then he was like, writing out a prescription like for drugs or whatever. And I didn't end up taking them. I ended up doing therapy. But instead, but when he was like saying, he was like going to give me pills or whatever, I was like, I don't really think I need the prescription, to be honest. Like, I think I just need to feel the feelings. I think these have been here for a long time. And as I was saying this, he was like rolling his eyes. He was like, oh, shut up. Just take the drugs. Like, just shut up and take the drugs. And then he was like, no, just take the drugs, honestly. Like, it's fine. Just take them. And I was like, well, I really think I need to just feel the feelings, because I've been watching this documentary recently, and it said that sadness is quite important, and it needs, it has a place, and, you really need to. And he was like, what's the documentary? I was like, Inside Out. Pretty sure that's a documentary. But no, so then I'm going to wrap it up now. So so I did the therapy thing, and a lot of life changes actually as well. So drugs are easier to take, but anyway. Fuck it. Also, this is not something you're ever going to see for humans. No issues found, because I think we have lots of them. And that's fine. Like, that's what makes us cool. And anxiety is a brilliant thing. Like, you just have to embrace it. Okay? I feel like you're all on board there. That's fine. Also, it says how to be normal, and that it's not possible. And we're all just bozos on the bus. And I think let's just be nice bozos, I think. And then this one says, when the hula hoop starts falling, keep going anyway. And also, just in case this is a kind of a bit of a plug for, I co-host a podcast on mental and emotional health, and it's called AFOG Pod. And look it up if you're so inclined. And thank you.